Hi, I'm Nick Haig, and welcome to the B2B Insights podcast. Today, I'm delighted to have Christoph Becker join the B2B Insights podcast. Christoph's been the driving force behind the reinvention of business-to-business marketing. As both CEO and CCO, Christoph's grown Gyro into one of the largest, most successful B2B agencies in the world over the last 10 years. In the past year, Gyro was named Creative Agency of the Year at the Global ACE Awards, and this is on top of being voted the large Global Agency of the Year by the ANA a total of 5 times in the last 6 years. Christoph spent nearly 30 years building brands and creative cultures around the globe, and in 2018 he was inducted into the ANA's prestigious B2B Hall of Fame. So it does go without saying that I'm very excited to introduce you all today to Christoph. So welcome, glad you could join me today.
Well, thank you so much, Nick, especially for this great introduction. I better don't say much after this.
They speak for themselves. But no, I mean, today is all about the discussion and understanding the background both to yourself and to Gyro itself. And in fact, that's where I'd like to start because obviously with those accolades that I've talked through, I'm sure our listeners would like to hear just firsthand about who you are as a person and a bit of background, of course, on who Gyro are as a company.
Right. Who I am as a person. Okay. I think it's in a way it's easy because I am what I do. So because I, for good or for bad, I never distinguish between my personal life and my professional life, and therefore my drive is to be about building and building with people. More importantly, with people that actually made some of the thinking and some of the ideas much bigger than I ever thought. So I enjoy really getting nurtured by diversity, nurtured by different cultures, and that friction gives me the energy and inspiration to create things that I sometimes think is something that didn't exist before. And that search for the new, the different, the original has been my drive all my life.
Yeah.
And Gyro was born in the deepest crisis. I would say that in 2008, I thought it was the deepest crisis. Of course, after this, we cannot say deepest crisis anymore.
No.
Because we don't know what deep means and where bedrock is. But definitely it was a very difficult time in 2008, where actually this beautiful business we're in the middle of the real transformational trend that hasn't even stopped. And from now we actually are on the second round of that, as we all know. And the true story is that I came from being a chairman of FCB, Food Column Building, to create something that I thought was much more relevant. I had this relevancy crisis, honestly, not personally only, but also in the eyes of the clients. When the clients looked into my offering in that time and thinking, well, that is not relevant enough to drive growth or transform my brand. Therefore, we sold the 360 dream, which we all know is not true. Someone invented because they had 360 friends that they wanted to nurture. And integration really means do what it needs to be done, integrate what needs to be integrated, connect what needs to be connected to deliver a solution to the challenge of our clients. So that's, for me, is the relevancy that I was looking for on the client side. And the other relevancy I was looking for is, of course, the consumer, who considers completely not relevant what we were doing in that time and completely numb to this bombardment of high tech that we put around them. And the human relevancy for me was the key, actually, to drive Gyro into the B2B space that we are today.
Yeah. And I think, we'll touch on that human relevance, because I think we see it, we see it in all the work that we do these days, and people have jumped on that bandwagon, but you were the first, and Gyro to start talking around that everything that we do needs to be humanly relevant. Even into today's modern age, isn't it? With digital being front and central to how people are transforming.
Absolutely. I think we're a people business for people. So what can I say? So not emphasizing the human relevance is basically being blind to what we really need to do in life.
Yeah.
Businesses are driven by people, and
Yeah.
unbelievable people with unbelievable feelings and emotional space that needs to be connected, engaged in order to trigger a business decision finally. So nothing is different on that space, and I think that investigation, thanks to, of course, our great collaboration and partnership with B2B International, gives us the rigor around how we trigger these emotions and talk about these feelings that actually eventually create big business decisions.
One of my first questions, therefore, is it starts with the people side of things, and I suppose it starts from yourself, and with that, how the culture, the culture within gyro was born. But when I was doing the homework, looking back on you as a person, you are a global citizen, born in Germany, raised in Madrid, but spending most of your working life outside of your home country, be it Spain, Mexico, and me speaking to you now, September the 11th, as it was habit, but there in New York. And as you say, we've had the opportunity to work alongside each other for 2 years now, and what I can see from B2B International, working with gyro alongside within the organization, this Uno culture that you developed, which is all about, we are a global company, removing borders, silos, these internal politics that you can have within companies to act as one in the benefit of our clients that we do work for. And I'm joining the dots here a little and presupposing that this Uno culture was born from you living and breathing these different cultures around the world. But is that correct? Is that correct to make that presumption?
But no, it's absolutely correct. Saying it came only from myself is a big word. Definitely, I influenced it. I think the richness of the outcome of the value that we can deliver to a client comes from an eclectic combination of people. And that only can come from a place that you consider a safe place where you can be different and you can evolve and grow in the way you think you have learned and what you brought to the table. If you don't do that, you will not be able to bring the best of you to the table. And in order to do that, you need to create a culture. We talk about culture for ages. Believe me, I've been completely big believer in what culture is. I think the worst thing about culture is talking about culture, honestly, because the more you talk about it, the less it is. It's like saying you need to be cool, right? I said, okay, fine. I don't know how to be cool now, but in this case, is you need to feel the culture. And I think if Uno, what it did, is the definition of a feeling. It's a feeling to belong to something, and you belong there because you want to. And this is another thing. At the end of the day, this is a very inclusive business. It should be an inclusive business, and that includes the clients. So Uno is not only a culture for gyro, it's a culture of everyone who comes close to gyro. It was born out of the obsession of the eclecticism, of the uniqueness that we can bring to the client, and especially that nothing goes between what we can deliver to a client and our own process. So how many times best ideas, best value gets lost because the layers of a company are bigger than the ambition. And Uno basically erased that.
And it is so powerful. I've seen it from within, and well, actually, it was Peter Drucker, wasn't it, that said culture eats strategy for breakfast. And we're here helping clients to try and develop their proposition, differentiate in the marketplace, but we need to work as a global team in order to do that. And I think that power from within is something that I think probably stands us apart from other agencies out there. And well, actually, that takes me on to my next question, which I started reeling off all these different accolades that you've received as a company over the years. The question was going to be, what do you think makes Gyro stand out from all other B2B creative agencies? Do you think culture sits at the heart of that?
Well, definitely culture is a driver. There's no doubt. I think you will not be able to do anything without a strong culture. That's the truth. But I will also say it's a partnership with our clients, to be honest. I think we have a very special way to work where clients feel part of us and we feel part of them. At the end of the day, if you don't drive a client's business as if you were the owner of that business, you will not be able to create brave ideation or tap into territories, the unknown, and we know there's where the radical growth lives. You will never going to go to a radical growth area without a partnership with the client, because if not, you will simply deliver, react, and propose what you basically see on a paper instead of what you deeply understood the business agenda of the client is. So I think actually, if you ask me, this year the best accolade we could have gotten, or the award is actually our client Hiscox became CMO of the year, and of course it's our client. So I think for me, if you ask me, that is the biggest award we can get, and that's probably reference to the best why we got what we got. And year after year, A&A has chosen us to be the agency of the year. Yeah.
Well, and it comes back to what we were discussing at the start, doesn't it? People do business with people. And so if we don't have those deep relationships and we don't have our client's best interests at heart, we've got to want to work for the company, we've got to want to work for the client, and we're bought into that journey that we're trying to take them on, aren't we? So and I think, going back therefore on this people do business with people, and Gyro's mission is to create humanly relevant ideas. I know there's lots of discussion in the marketplace, but what would you say to people out there that say emotion has no place in the business to business space?
Well, I hope after all this year, no one is thinking that way anymore. That's my first hope. I think it is not only something that has been proven by the work, it's been proven scientifically. So I think if anyone hesitates and any of those thoughts, it should just go to a more scientific analysis of what that means. There's no doubt, especially in times of crisis, that the number one driver is emotion. And I would say, if you define the number one word any big CMO is talking right now, in any interview you read, and any client, any big industrialist or business leader are talking about empathy. So it's unbelievable that the big calling card is a feeling. It's an emotion. Of course, the word growth, of course, is there, but it is a must. Let's put it this way. But there's a driver, there's the empathy of the times being, of people working at home now. People are completely changing consumer mindset. The e-commerce exploded. All the empathy of what that has created, that environment, that ecosystem, is a feeling, it's an emotion that nurtures everything we do. The more we understand that, the deeper we go into that, the more engagement we will create and more successful customer journeys and experiences we can create.
Yeah, and I know you did some research aligned with the FT back in, I think probably 2018, something like that, with the Business Feelings Index. And then as a joint thought leadership piece, we did some research last year, didn't we? We spoke to 2,000 business decision makers and to trying to understand, trying to quantify that emotions piece. Yes, we know you've got to have a quality product or service. You've got to have the right channels. You've got to be a competitor in the competitive set. But what we found was 56% of the final B2B decision making is based on emotional factors. If you like, the emotion is more important than those rational factors, especially when it comes to making that final decision. Emotion really kicks in. So it's no surprise, is it, that we're talking, people are talking more about that empathetic reason for doing business.
Which is fascinating if you think about it. We're talking about multi-million contracts and we're talking about major decisions, but there's enormous amount of factors right now that makes you decide. And you have to think about as well that the commoditization of the world, makes it more difficult for people to decide the value from one to the other. So at the end, what is left? The left is a relationship. What is left is trust. What is left is, I'm going to be with the right partner when this whole thing goes south. Are they going to stand with me? Are they here just for the budget that I have for this year? All these questions are questions that a relationship needs to solve immediate needs, but definitely need to be there for sustainable growth and sustainable solutions. And that only can happen when you have the conviction that actually you tick the emotional boxes as well.
Yeah. There's as you well know, Christoph, there's other research that we're doing at the moment that we'll launch later this year. So all our listeners, keep our eyes and ears open for that one. But that's where we're starting to look at this business value add versus personal value add, and that obviously tapping into the emotional side of why we do what we do, why we make the decisions that we do. I think that's where still companies, they're talking a lot about it, but we've started to uncover where they can where they're not doing well, and therefore what that white space or differentiation piece is that brands can do.
Yeah, and of course, as you well said, I think the business feeling index that you so greatly led and influenced, I think was an enormous success when it comes to create common ground with clients and people. But it's pretty clear that we're living in a moment where we really have to be able to analyze these emotions in a very rigorous way. Because the interesting thing is, when it comes to any marketing efforts, there's a comfort zone in the analytical no, where you say, well, this is what I know, this is what I'm going to deliver, this is the proof. What is not so comfortable is when you tap into emotional agendas. So therefore, I think it requires a relationship with your partner that gives you the bravery to tap into that. And we all know tapping into that is what unearths real growth. And therefore, it's very important that we go hand in hand with certain rigor around what emotions can deliver. Yeah. And of course, the work you're doing, and I know what's coming, I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to steal the thunder, gives even more basis and gravitas to what we're talking about.
Specific to emotions, I was going to ask what recent campaigns or work has Gyro delivered that showcases how B2B brands have tapped into the emotional side of doing business, and you could mention many, I'm sure, but Hiscox was one. I don't know whether you can talk about that or what you were thinking of. But I really liked what you did with Hiscox. Obviously, they won the awards that you just referenced, but how you really tapped into the emotions with the hammer and everything else. I thought that was a fantastic campaign.
Yeah, Hiscox is actually this client we spoke about before, and I think we have a great partnership there. And again, when the internal culture of the client is connected to the purpose and the narrative that they bring to the market, you have a very strong proposition, usually rooted in the soul, rooted in the truth, rooted in emotion. And therefore it's extremely powerful. It's very difficult to walk away from that ownable space. And that is what we have been building with them now for many years. They live in the space of courage. So you can imagine how rich that is. That is similar to another client that we have, JLL, who lives in the space of ambition, of living the ambition, to grow into the ambition, to show your ambition, and to be as strong as your ambitions. And with that client, actually, it's interesting. We had one of the first, I would say, COVID-19 campaigns, where we together were thinking what to do in these times, and a beautiful exercise and campaign came out of that. We named the Re-Blank campaign, which is re-entry, refresh, restart. All that has connotation of empowerment in these times of crisis, if you want to. But as we all know, in the deepest moment of crisis comes the optimism, and the optimism has to come from us. So it's another feeling. but listen, I think we are the partner in good and in bad. So that example with JLL was a very big successful story because they actually encouraged their own clients to be in this blank space, which is basically let's be here together and let's restart this. Or even before that, we had for Fujifilm, where we have a very, very strong CEO, went through enormous transformation to put them in an avant-garde of innovation, especially in healthcare. So they actually, as we speak, are investigating and testing the vaccine against the COVID. So it can kind of be more avant-garde, a client think about it. And there we came up with a campaign that basically said never stop. So if you can see, it's a kind of a sense of ambition of never stop, courage. All these are spaces of emotions that these times extremely rich, important to elevate a point of view, a purpose of a company and a brand to not only to react to these times, but actually to grow in these times. And yeah, I can, while we're saying this, actually I can tap into another territory that basically has to do with tapping into what our work can do for society, which is this kind of implied sense of responsibility that is not specifically the pragmatic, rational conversation of the B2B world. Which is
absolutely, yeah, and that whole, what doing good within society is becoming even more to the fore in terms of what buyers are looking for when they're choosing brands. So there is the company value add, there's the personal value add, and then there's that wider holistic society value add and how we can help.
Yeah.
In we're speaking in 2020, and the world has changed dramatically around us. Maybe that's why society and people are looking for different things in making those decisions, and therefore B2B markets have changed dramatically. What have you seen, or what are your clients talking to you about in terms of the biggest challenges they're facing today?
Well, I think the challenges, as we all know, besides the obvious, going through very difficult times, is simply how to define a short-term plan that nurtures a long-term plan. It's a very normal or known concept with sustainable growth, and tap into that. I think the biggest, I would say danger, if you want to, is that a lot of clients that we have worked with also talking about making very immediate reactive decisions that basically are cutting their wings for future growth.
Yeah,
I think that is, of course, that only can happen if you have a short, mid, and long-term strategy, which is not always difficult when the boat is sinking, right?
Yeah.
The first thing you do is, how can I swim and get out of this? So, but I mean, even yesterday, someone mentioned in a meeting we had internally, where even in these times, you can drive a car in total darkness as long as the lights are on. So everything could be dark around you. You don't know what's behind you. It doesn't exactly what's happening. As long as you have the lights on, you can keep guiding. So I think the biggest ambition and probably need today is guidance, if you ask me. And I would even say focus. I think focus, in my opinion, is today the name of the game, because that will definitely give you your uniqueness, your value, your proposition, your ownable space that no matter what happens, you don't want to move from. And that builds at least a conviction internally and externally that you know what you're doing. And you invest where you have to invest, and you launch what you have to launch, and you don't lose the drive, you don't lose the energy. And eventually you create a momentum that you never thought you would create, because of course, these times, what it does, it distills everything, for good or for bad. So you see the bad bigger and the good as well. So I think that's focus. I think would be the number one challenge.
Yeah. Well, we're an insights company, and we've definitely seen that, in terms of the briefs landing on our door over the last few months, in terms of, just trying to understand what's happening out there. What's not only how are customers changing in terms of their requirements, but how's the market evolving. But as you say, it's clipping your wings for just that short-term win, or we've seen that with how clients of ours have chosen to stop research, but those that continued research throughout the COVID period have enabled to be a bit more fleet of foot and change the way that they've done business. So it's well, if we look back on the last where's the last 6 months gone? But it's evolved massively, hasn't it, the world?
Completely.
In 2018, we joined forces, and that's B2B International and Gyro, and that successful marriage that we've had has led to the reinvention of how we look at B2B marketing and the services we could deliver. But the real exciting news, of course, was on the 1st of September this year, so just a couple of weeks back. Our two agencies joined forces with not only Merkle, but DWA and Digital Pie to create Merkle B2B, this B2B like never before. This truly really is exciting times. Why do you think this collaboration makes sense, or why has it come about now?
Well, more than saying it makes sense, it's needed. I'll put it this way. I think putting the way you just defined what happened, I think all stars aligned finally. And I would say the B2B stars aligned. There's a proof of concept of what our mother company, Dentsu, has brought to the table, which is a radical collaboration among companies and a very fluid way to bring teams together, building around the needs of our clients, and finally become a growth partner for our clients. All that can only happen if you have all the capabilities aligned, simplified, and you can offer it as one value. As you can see, and you just beautifully described, I think Merkle's power and platform only makes one thing clear, is that now we have a real end-to-end solution. An end-to-end solution means basically you can offer everything a client might need in these times and for their future. That is something that makes us feel jumping on an enormous springboard with our clients, with our friends, with our clients, with our talent, and let us reach heights and altitudes that are probably, I would say, impossible to even imagine, because the combination by itself hasn't been done before. So that the reason why we say this is the never before is simply because there's no offering out there that can bring that to the table. And that is extremely exciting. I think it's something that honestly I have always dreamed about. And now we can offer it. Now we can honestly say, here it is. It's as we said, in a very clear three structure. And Michael McLaren, the global CEO of Merkle B2B, would say, we are data-driven, we're tech-enabled, and creatively empowered. So these three big pillars need to act as one. And when that happens, growth happens, magic happens, empowerment happens, and B2B gets what it deserves and needs.
Yeah, it's we can see it from the inside in terms of what value we can bring in that end-to-end solution. And I think we're not even 2 weeks into our journey as Merkle B2B, and already the conversations we're having with clients, we can see that it really does resonate externally from all the feedback. So well, with that, and looking to the future, what opportunities therefore do you think lie ahead for B2B companies, and in terms of what we can now do as Merkle B2B? What does that mean for B2B companies out there, and also aligning that to Gyro and the creative force that you bring to that relationship?
Everything is possible right now. Let's put it this way. And I think that's the biggest opportunity. Now we can definitely, as I said before, propose solutions that are completely nurtured by top award-winning companies that bring to the table the value that's needed to create this, what we named the ultimate B2B experience. I think starting what's in it for our clients, I think we have definitely fully integrated growth solutions to offer. That I quickly will tell you could evolve into integrated social solutions, and it is something, an opportunity also would refer out there, which is basically where we should live in, which is how growth lives in the fabric of the society. I think that with our combination of our companies, we can offer that. That goes from all the way from consultancy all the way to create the most creative experience you can imagine. So I think these kind of power to be able to build this ecosystem, to nurture the reality we're living in today, but also the society we're going to live in the next 10 years, and also the millennials that was going to be the leading force and very, very hungry for companies that have a point of view and they can drive by purpose. That is the opportunity we can deliver. I think for gyro, for B2B International, as I said, we talk about opportunity, becoming architects. Now you're an architect, you can actually build whatever you want. And I think that empowerment, in my way, is actually what makes personal growth too. So I think when we talk about growth, we talk about growth in society, growth in personally, and growth for our clients. I would say opportunity is growth.
Yeah. And I think, the exciting part is that, clients can come to us and they don't even know where they might want to go. So we could, like you say, at that front end piece, putting the customer at the heart of it, speaking to them, designing that, architecting that experience, we can go in any different direction we want to. And in this digital age, everything is possible, isn't it? So the 5 companies that have come together, it's just very, very exciting in terms of where we can take our personal adventure, as well as and bring the clients on board with us. It brings it back to that relationship piece again, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think at the end it's our mission, our obligation to bring the best value to our clients. I think that is our mission, and I feel very, very privileged to be able to walk in any office of my clients and meetings and say that I have this value to offer. I think that is an amazing feeling, especially in these times where people feel that you need to really create a fruit salad of brands to make sense of what you have to offer as a client. And that pain, that uncertainty, that lack of relationship, that kind of sense that everything is all over the place, the not unified nor orchestrated solution, that is with Merkle B2B gone. I think be able to walk in with 4 people and say, these are the people going to run it, and guess what? They're going to represent the driving force of your value and of your capabilities together with you. It's very powerful, and I think the timing is perfect for that.
Yeah. Christoph, every time I speak to you, I love to hear you talk, and I always learn something new. So I need to thank you again for sparing your valuable time. And I suppose to all our listeners, that the conversation doesn't stop here. We'd love to hear from you. So if you want to get in touch, then you can do so through the usual channels. We'll pick up this conversation in a few months' time, I'm sure, Christoph, when we unveil our new thoughts on the world and how relationships are built for B2B companies.
Nick, always a pleasure, and this is a great journey that and thanks to B2B International and so many others, we're able to enjoy. I think we need to send out a sense of hope and reality at the same time. And I think it's our responsibility as companies to drive, especially in the business world, that hope and reality to bring to the table what is needed not to only to react to these times, but also build something that we never thought we would build, and probably and hopefully even much better than we have in front of us today.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and let's do it.
No, thank you. And that's a nice way to leave it. I mean, we've talked a lot about being humanly relevant and the people factor of business and emotions and like you say, to leave on that note, you know, we know from last year that the 4 key emotions were around trust, confidence, optimism, and pride. And I think that's where we need to instill optimism within the business world, because even though it's weird times, then we know that there's a brighter future around the corner.
Yeah, and just to end on that note, just actually you inspire me a thought. It's something that I'm now convinced is that our business actually can build a better world. And I think that is something that we always talked about in kind of sideshow, I would say, not diminishing that at all, but I mean, basically not front and center of our beliefs. Now it's front and center of our belief system. We can create much better world, society, and businesses together.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to working alongside you in that future world, Christoph. So
thanks, Nick.
Thank you again, and we'll speak very soon.